All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to more Guy Boston Sports, our second channel here. In today's video, we have I guess a short version of the Ev Singleton show because it's going to be kind of a reaction slash take video, I guess. We're talking about Isaiah Stewart. He has quite literally, if you're in deep on NBA Twitter, polarized. He's been polarizing figure over the last few weeks, I guess. He's been getting tossed from games. He's been talking smack. He's been elbowing people. And I tweeted it out today. In fact, let's just show what I tweeted. I said, people are, bitching about Isaiah Stewart, laughing face emoji. Dude is just playing tough, talking smack. And I honestly wish we had more of that in the league, which I 1,000,000% stand by all of those words. Even like the comical laughing face emoji of like, I can't believe people are upset about this. Like, are we at a point where I'm the crazy one for thinking because a guy is physical and almost getting in these mock fights and whatnot? Again, mock fights. Like, am I the crazy one to think that, like, that's something that we haven't seen in the NBA in a long time? Throw in the fact that it's kind of given a little bit more fire to that Pacers and Pistons rivalry, which is, like, obviously one of the, one of the most iconic fights of all time in the NBA. Like, I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Isaiah Stewart. Couple things to note here. The reason I'm making this video now is because I tweet that out, and some of the responses, we're 50-50 and whatnot. We're not gonna act like we polled 1 million people, but we had a couple people being like, I agree with that as long as it doesn't go too far. You don't mess with him. Couldn't agree more. That's what football's for. But the one I kind of focus on here is from Kyle, which is a fair opinion here. Air shooting at a bench when getting ejected isn't tough or what the league needs. Now, there's a couple things I want to pull from that. And I did tweet it, so why don't we just look at my reply before I give my take and then show another visual, right? So, right here, I say I agree partially, which I do. Like, that isn't necessarily a tough act. I was more so aiming at the physical play, which you are lying to yourself, anyone out there, if they're going to sit there and be like, well, he's not playing physical. He certainly is a physical player. And I said, but we can't act like he went like this and shot real bullets, right? Like, that seems absolutely silly to me. I like the idea of the me versus you. Yeah, he's getting tossed from games, getting these flagrants, and he's sitting at his bench going, hey, looking at you, you know what I mean? Like, the NBA, all of the good games in recent history doesn't have to be physical, but all of the good games in recent history realistically, for the most part, have hinged on this sort of mano-a-mano stuff. When we have amazing games when Tatum and Curry are going back and forth or stuff like that, you know what I mean? So Isaiah Stewart, while he's not going to be the give you 50 points type of guy, he is setting that physical tone of like me versus you, right? And we'll play the clip of the air shooting last night. But all I was pretty much saying is we can't act like he's the first guy to do that or that really is that bad. Like, we can't be so sensitive that a guy in the NBA can't go like this anymore. And it's like, I know that has some bad connotations, but guys do that after they hit a three-pointer, you know what I mean? Guys do that in the NFL after they get a first down, and then they're like, oh no, I wasn't doing the gun. It's like, well, you were. Anyways, we come to find out that Kyle is a Pacers fan, so it's like, yeah, fair enough. I'm not gonna sit here arguing with a Pacers fan, because if someone like Isaiah Stewart was acting like this to the Celtics, obviously my favorite team, I hate them too. So you're kind of completely, you're not unbiased whatsoever. You're completely biased. You know what I mean? So shout out to Kyle, because it did kind of spark some thoughts in my brain, and honestly, seeing it all over Twitter with that sort of mindset sparked the idea of this video. So let's take a peek at some of the spots that we're talking about here. We got a couple plays, and just to give some context, like, again, I'm kind of loving the idea of the Pacers and Pistons hating each other and having some fire there, and Isaiah Stewart being in the middle of it, but a couple of context pieces. The first video that we're going to look at is the thing that sparked all of this, right? So Thomas Bryant goes to get a rebound. Isaiah Stewart essentially is going to give him a forearm. That type of thing, yeah, I don't think there's any place for in the NBA, but I want to make it very, very clear. My take on this is that physicality I like, and Thomas Bryant didn't get hurt. In fact, we'll look at it. Thomas Bryant was celebrating the fact that Isaiah Stewart was ejected afterwards. And yes, he could have gotten hurt and all of that, but ultimately he did not. So we can't just talk in hypotheticals, right? If he's not hurting people, I don't have a problem with Isaiah Stewart being a physical beast or one of those guys that you just hate playing against, okay? So let's look at this first one here. We'll jump in. And right now the shot is up, right? You can see, in fact, let's back it up just a second here, because the shot goes up, and then you can see Isaiah Stewart right here, right? Thomas Bryant, boom. All right, he goes down. Looks like his neck, head kind of whiplash. I understand that, but let's watch it a little bit slower again. We can put it in a slower speed here just so we can, again, look at what is happening, if that makes sense, right? Thomas Bryant sets the screen, turns. Isaiah Stewart, his fault here is he never looks at the ball, the hoop, anything like that, which you might maybe make the argument being like, well, no, just box out your guy, right? He doesn't ever even turn and put his ass into the guy. He just straight up hits him, right? But everyone has been saying that he hit him, above the shoulders and all that. He really didn't. Hits him in the chest. He goes down. Terrible, terrible look. I completely agree with that. You then had Thomas Bryant get up, and he's like, moving his neck around. Looks like he's kind of hurt, which, yeah, he took a big hit. There's a chance with that whiplash. Maybe his head hit the ground and all that. Sure, I'm not against that being a flagrant or anything like that. Again, the argument here is that I think this is what the league needs, some physicality, right? So let's look at Thomas Bryant after we find out Isaiah Stewart is ejected, which this is not a fault on or knock on Thomas Bryant. Like, I'd do the same thing, but again, my whole point is that he's not hurting anyone. He's just playing overly physical, and the league isn't used to that. All right, ejected, right? All right, here we go. Let's get the crowd excited, all that good stuff. Here it is again, officially ejected from the game. They've announced it, right? Thomas Bryant getting the crowd excited. Doesn't appear to hurt anymore. And right there, what we just saw is what people are giving Isaiah Stewart a lot of crap for. Does this really look all that bad? Let's see if we can get a good view of that. Again, gets him pumped up. And Isaiah Stewart is seeing Thomas Bryant, who just fell down, acted like he was hurt, which it probably did hurt. Again, nothing what I'm saying is knocking Thomas Bryant. I'm talking about Isaiah Stewart's actions to follow. He didn't hurt anybody. He played physical, deserves to get ejected from the game, but then gets hate on social media for that action. That action. He's saying, I just pummeled you, and now you're celebrating to the crowd. That's BS. You know what I mean? Which I do get to some degree, but again, my whole argument here is that it's not like I'm not saying that deserves to be in the game in terms of the rules. Eject him. Give him a flagrant too. You know what I mean? My thing is that people shouldn't be so sensitive to be like, how could he ever hit him that hard? And then he had the audacity to do the finger guns as if he's literally shooting bullets or an arrow or flame throwing out of his finger. It's like, dude, he's watching someone essentially celebrate in his demise and he's saying, screw you, right? And what he does afterwards, I actually don't necessarily mind. The fans are going after him, right? And all that. And he kind of makes me feel a little bit better about the situation. So let's see, we can pull that up. He still says as he's walking off, he's like, okay, let's do this thing, right? Screw you. As he walks off, he sees a Pistons fan in the crowd. You'll see that in a second. Right here, look at that. And Pistons, clearly they're pumped up about it. He looks over to the left and smack talks a Pacers fan right here, and he's saying Detroit. I absolutely love that. A guy that is essentially throwing it all out on the line, right? So that's the situation that we saw. And again, my biggest takeaway there is that what he did, sure, that, make no mistake, I'm not saying that belongs in the game, but the fact that he's physical and he clearly is here for it and likes the rivalry and is talking smack to fans, appreciating the ones that are not to the opposing fans, appreciating his actual fans, like, I like that type of thing, right? That did all start a couple games prior to, and we can watch a couple clips of this because I think that this is worth noting the context. Like, what Isaiah Stewart did here was he was playing physical all game, still got into it, and then I think he did something that people overreacted to. Again, we're talking social media. Shocker, they overreacted. But I thought this was hilarious what he did at the end of game. But let's take a peek here. So Isaiah Stewart, middle of the floor, right? Ball's going to get punched out, goes out of bounds. How about this? Then a timeout's called, right? So now look at where that ball goes out of bounds, right by the Pistons bench. What we can't see here is that Pascal Siakam was kicking the ball like a soccer ball right in front of the Pistons bench, okay? Isaiah Stewart says, hey, I'm going to my bench. Get that out of here. He takes it from him, right? And he even says it. Go, get out of here. Go, get out of here. And then he's gone, right? He's gone. Pascal Siakam sticks around. He's talking. Obviously, the Pistons guys stand up for Isaiah Stewart. He's clearly a good glue guy. Pascal Siakam, who I like. Again, all these guys that are the victims and all that, I'm not saying it's their fault, but he talks. Tim Hardaway Jr. now, a veteran in the league, right? And how about this? Pascal Siakam, end of game, dribbling it out, continues to talk smack. We fast forward a little bit here. The game runs out. These guys are still talking. Miles Turner's yapping, right? what happens right here, you'll see Isaiah Stewart come in from the side, and I'll tell you what he says after we see it. So he looks right at Miles Turner. You can see him come in right here, right? Hey, you play with Legos. You play with Legos. You play with Legos. I think that type of thing is hilarious, yet people on social media were saying that's like, I mean, essentially not word for word paraphrasing it, but bullying? You're telling me that these guys are making millions playing basketball. One guy talks about that, and you're saying that that's a bad dude? That's a dude like, have you ever heard the story that I think it was Carmelo? KG essentially said to Carmelo, he was like, hey, your wife tastes like Honey Nut Cheerios or something like that, right? Can I find that? Some way, somehow we were able to find it now. No audio or anything, right? But this is, you can even see KG calls Lala Honey Nut Cheerio. So they start talking smack. Back and forth game, right? KG heads to the bench, comes back here. They're gonna push and shove a little bit more. You can see it right here. They're talking. The back in the good old days, right? You can see it moves along. I think right here, KG has the ball still. Let's see, boxes him out. Look at Carmelo and KG. Clearly, you know when guys are touching shoulders that things are happening. Look at this. They're going. He's talking to him. KG gets teed up, double technical. This is good. This is good. Essentially, they get separated, but he gets pissed, right? Kind of the point that I'm making here is Miles Turner said, you play with Legos. And people didn't like that. Isaiah Stewart said you play with Legos until he starts absolutely hurting people in these sort of flagrant-esque plays. Like, if he's going to get in a fist fight, both guys should be signing up to swing. You know what I mean? But if we're talking about that Thomas Bryant example, where Thomas Bryant's playing basketball and Isaiah Stewart says, no, we're playing a different sport, and he hurts him, sure, I see the argument, but as far as I'm concerned, Thomas Bryant got up, started cheering and all that, and Miles Turner's going like this on the sideline. James Johnson, who's not even in the game, is talking to Isaiah Stewart. The dude is an agitator. He's one of those hockey players, you know what I mean, like an enforcer, which how can you hate nowadays when I think the league is lacking that? We talk a lot about the NBA ratings and all that, and it's like, well, maybe it's because it's a lovey-dovey sport right now. If you had any stars that had that grit like Isaiah Stewart, I think we could see some awesome stuff. But that's it from me. Let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think on it? Or think about it, I should say, because I do stand by what I originally said of, like, I think they need a little bit more of that. No one wants elbows being thrown and whatnot, but you should be able to, you know, get boxed out hard or that type of thing. And you should be able to talk smack and you know what, get in each other's face. Like, KG Carmelo, that's awesome. We have a plethora of examples over the history, and how am I in the minority of thinking like those were better NBA times, right? Like, it's there's got to be a little bit of hatred in there, especially with Pistons and Pacers. Like, you got to love a reinvigoration of something like that. But anyways, that's my take on it. Figured it'd be a good video. Shout out to Kyle, because we did go back and forth on Twitter. But again, I stand by the being biased. If you're an Indiana fan, I would hate Isaiah Stewart too. I'm coming from an objective standpoint, and I love the physicality. But we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.